It wasn't on purpose, was it?
Of course not.
Well, neither is this.
You bet I will!
Back then, TV families actually talked to each other instead of yelling across the reality show set. From 1974 to 1983, Little House on the Prairie gave us 9 seasons and 204 episodes filled with life lessons, heartbreak, and the occasional fight. Based on Laura Ingalls Wilder's classic books, the series followed the Ingalls family as they built their lives in the frontier town of Walnut Grove, Minnesota. Michael Landon starred as the caring father Charles Paw. Karen Grassel played his loyal wife Caroline, and Melissa Gilbert, Melissa Sue Anderson, and the Greenbush twins brought their daughters Laura, Mary, and Carrie to life. And of course, Allison Arngrim stole every scene as the wonderfully awful Nellie Oleson, the Prairie's original mean girl. Together, they gave NBC one of the most loved dramas of the 1970s and early 80s. It was a mix of pioneer toughness, family warmth, and surprisingly dark storylines that still work today. But behind the wholesome image was a show packed with strange production habits, off-screen arguments, and completely bizarre trivia. From Purple Paws to the secret ingredient in Ma's cooking, we're counting down 15 weird facts you didn't know about Little House on the Prairie. And stick around for number 14. You won't believe where the theme song wrote in from. Now, before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hype the video so you never miss a trip back through retro TV history. Now, let's start the countdown with number 1, the yellow brick road beneath Walnut Grove. When Little House on the Prairie moved from Paramount Studios to MGM's huge Stage 15 in the summer of 1979, the crew began ripping up the old floor to build the new Walnut Grove sets, including the Ingalls cabin, the schoolhouse, and Oleson's mercantile. During that tear-up, that's when they found it. Faded yellow bricks still painted on the soundstage floor. It was the original yellow brick road from the 1939 classic, The Wizard of Oz, still there 40 years later. Melissa Gilbert and Allison Arngrim completely lost it. Arngrim later explained how the two of them got extremely excited, dancing around the set and singing while pretending to be Dorothy. They had just spent 5 seasons filming Prairie life at Paramount, and now they were standing on a real piece of Wizard of Oz history. And here's where it gets even wilder, pun intended. The season before the move, Ray Bolger, the original Scarecrow, had guest starred as the traveling performer Toby No, and the title of his first episode was There's No Place Like Home. Bolger filmed at Paramount, so he never saw the Yellow Brick Road discovery, but the timing is almost too perfect. Dorothy's famous line, the Scarecrow's return, and a TV Prairie family stepping onto the yellow bricks 1 year later. Sometimes the universe just likes to show off. Number 2, the explosive end of Walnut Grove. When The Last Farewell aired in 1984, Little House on the Prairie did not quietly ride off into the sunset. Instead, it ended with a full prairie apocalypse. The town of Walnut Grove was blown sky high in one of television's most shocking finales, and Michael Landon was the one who gave the order. The choice was not just creative flair, it was also practical. The show's outdoor sets were built on leased land at Big Sky Ranch in Simi Valley, and the contract required the land to be returned to its original untouched condition. Instead of spending weeks taking every building apart, Landon came up with a faster and much more dramatic solution. He wrote the destruction into the story. But this was not only about saving time. Landon had built Walnut Grove from the ground up 10 years earlier, personally overseeing its design on a completely empty piece of land. He approved every layout, fence, and storefront, making sure it felt like a real frontier town instead of a typical Hollywood backlot. Walnut Grove was more than just a set. It was his creation, and he refused to let it end up being used in something like a dog food commercial years later. So Landon chose to give it an apocalyptic ending. In The Last Farewell, a ruthless land baron arrived with a federal marshal and announced that he owned all the land in Hero Township, turning the people of the town into tenants.
Get off this property now!
In defiance, Melissa Gilbert's Laura Ingalls smashed her windows, inspiring the others to do the same.
One by one, the men placed dynamite in their homes and businesses, deciding that if they could not keep their town, then no one else would. The explosions were real. There were no models and no camera tricks. The Walnut Grove School, the Mercantile, and the homes were destroyed one after another, leaving only the church and the Ingalls' small house still standing. For the cast, it was heartbreaking. Melissa Gilbert described it as the longest funeral she had ever attended. Those tears were not fake. They were grieving something they had helped build over 10 years. And then there was the Ingalls house. Stan Ivar, who played John Carter, asked Landon if he could keep it. Landon agreed. So Ivar carefully took the entire building apart, piece by piece, and stored it on his own property. It is still there decades later, fragile and tied up in legal issues, but it remains intact. Landon destroyed Walnut Grove in 1984, and one cast member literally took a piece of it home.
Number 3. Nellie Oleson, France's favorite mean girl. In the United States, fans loved to hate Nellie Oleson, but in France, they truly loved her. In France, where the show was called, and I hope I'm not saying this wrong, La Maison dans la Prairie, Little House on the Prairie has been rebroadcast so many times that it has become a full cultural institution. And while American viewers often see Laura Ingalls as the heart of the show, the French chose a very different queen of Walnut Grove, Nellie Oleson. Actress Alison Arngrim discovered her surprising European fame in the early 2000s when her fan mail suddenly began arriving in French. During a trip to France in 2002, she was surrounded by fans who treated her like a pop star, calling her La Garce de la Prairie, meaning the brat of the prairie, and saying it as a compliment. French audiences loved Nellie's over-the-top drama and her completely unapologetic flair.
You promise? I certainly do, I promise. Now you just calm down, and Mother's going to go and get your dessert for you. Yes, everything is going to be all right. Mother's going to take care of that.
Instead of seeing her as the villain, they celebrated her as the most entertaining rebel on the show. Arngrim fully embraced this image and created a one-woman stage show called Confessions d'une chienne de prairie, or Confessions of a Prairie Bitch, which she performs entirely in French to sold-out theaters across the country. She is now a true celebrity in France, appearing on television, in films, and in magazines. Her fame there is often compared to David Hasselhoff's popularity in Germany. It was unexpected, long-lasting, and strangely perfect. It remains one of television's most unusual cultural twists. The spoiled brat of Walnut Grove became a national treasure in France. While Americans were cheering for Half Pint, the French were busy falling in love with La Garce. Number 4. Prairie heat and pioneering fainting spells. For all its postcard-perfect sunsets and wide, beautiful wheat fields, filming Little House on the Prairie at Big Sky Ranch in Simi Valley was often more of a survival challenge than a warm, family-friendly drama. The cast spent countless hours under the California sun, where temperatures regularly climbed above 100 degrees, and those peaceful-looking pioneer outfits did not breathe at all. The female cast members suffered the most. Their costumes were made from heavy, period-accurate wool, with multiple layers and long petticoats that trapped every bit of heat.
Good day, Mrs. Ingalls.
Oh, Charles! You're back. I lost track of the time.
Karen Grassel wrote in her memoir that her feet felt like they were boiling inside her custom black boots. The child actors were not spared either. Melissa Gilbert had to wear thick stockings and several layers of skirts, even when the temperature reached triple digits. It was not just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. The constant heat mixed with tight, heavy clothing caused frequent fainting spells. Alison Arngrim almost became famous for fainting, collapsing so often that the crew began watching her closely whenever the temperature went up. At first, the crew brushed off Arngrim's episodes as a young girl simply being weak, but it took someone else to prove the real danger. Sean Penn, who appeared without credit in the first season episode, The Voice of Tinker Jones, which was directed by his father, Leo Penn, suddenly collapsed like a sack of potatoes and had to be taken off set for the rest of the day. That moment changed everything. The crew finally realized the heat was not just uncomfortable, it was truly dangerous. Arngrim later thanked Penn for taking one for the team because his collapse finally led to proper water breaks and heat safety rules for the young actors. It took a teenage boy passing out to convince Hollywood that kids should not have to faint for realism. Life on the prairie was brutal, but at least someone finally paid attention.
Number 5. Michael Landon's secret height advantage. Standing at 5'9" in real life, Michael Landon was perfectly average in height. But on screen as Charles Ingalls, he appeared like a commanding frontier giant. That effect did not happen by accident. It took some careful work.
Then you're not mad at me?
Well, not yet. But I will be if you two are not up in bed quicker than I can say, Jack.
His quest for a taller image actually started years earlier on Bonanza, where he played Little Joe alongside co-stars Lorne Greene and Dan Blocker, who stood at 6'2" and 6'4" respectively. Surrounded by literal TV giants, Landon quietly became self-conscious about being the shortest Cartwright. So, when Little House on the Prairie came along and he took on the role of patriarch Charles Ingalls, he was determined to appear tall, literally and figuratively. Landon's go-to trick was a pair of custom boots with hidden lifts. Allison Arngrim later revealed that his footwear wasn't just for show. It added a few extra inches of pioneer power to every step. And he didn't stop there. He perfected the art of tactical staging, standing on steps, slopes, or mounds of dirt to gain an inch or two, positioning the camera at a slightly lower angle so he would appear towering in the frame, and occasionally placing shorter cast members beside him during key scenes. With the boots, the camera angles, and the occasional mound of dirt, Charles Ingalls looked every bit the commanding leader of Walnut Grove.
Number 6. The Curious Case of Purple Paw. By the time Michael Landon was leading the Prairie as Charles Ingalls, he was also fighting another battle, against gray hair. Landon had started going gray in his early 20s, and by the Bonanza years, he was a loyal box dye user. But under the California sun, his DIY hair color turned into one of Little House on the Prairie's most memorable behind-the-scenes problems. He insisted on coloring his own hair with an off-the-shelf Clairol product. It worked fine indoors until the Simi Valley heat and ultraviolet light came into play. After a few hours of outdoor filming, his dark brown hair would start shifting from rugged pioneer to something closer to Prince and the Revolution. By midday, Charles Ingalls sometimes had a noticeable lavender tint, earning him the unintentional nickname Purple Paw. Whenever the violet hue appeared on camera, filming had to stop while the makeup team scrambled to cover it with dulling spray, dark matte powder, or anything that could tone down the grape glow until he could recolor it later. Karen Graslow later called it one of Landon's most endearing quirks. Seeing their tough, perfectionist leading man suddenly sporting lilac hair was the kind of absurdity that could break even the most serious day on set. No matter how hard he tried to look like the perfect frontier hero, Landon couldn't beat basic chemistry. On the Prairie, the sun always won, and Purple Paw became a legend in his own right.
Number 7. The secret ingredient in Ma's cooking. Those hearty, frontier-style meals that the Ingalls family gathered round looked like they came straight from the 1870s, but they smelled suspiciously like the 1970s. Behind the scenes, the food on Little House on the Prairie was much less rustic than it appeared.
Good. Anybody in particular you like, Laura?
Someone in particular I don't like. That snippy Nellie Oleson.
Laura!
You know what she called us? Country girl.
Filming in the Simi Valley heat meant that anything truly homemade would spoil quickly or melt under the studio lights, especially during long shooting days with multiple takes. So the prop department got creative, serving up store-bought stand-ins that could survive both the weather and the close-up camera shots. Their two secret weapons were Dinty Moore beef stew and Kentucky fried chicken. Whenever the script called for a pot of rabbit stew, squirrel, or anything vaguely brown and hearty, it was usually canned Dinty Moore. It was easy to reheat, looked the same from take to take, and was thick enough to pass as homemade stew on camera. For Ma's fried chicken, the cast didn't have to pretend to enjoy it. It came straight from the Colonel himself. Buckets of KFC were delivered to the set, and Melissa Gilbert later admitted she happily snacked on leftovers once filming wrapped. The inside joke went so far that in one episode, The Wave of the Future, a traveling salesman, clearly modeled after Colonel Sanders, pitched a fried chicken franchise to Harriet Oleson, who turned him down. It was a sly wink from the writers to the crew's not-so-frontier food supply. So, while Charles and Caroline Ingalls embodied pioneer self-reliance, their dinner table was quietly sponsored by canned stew and fast food. Turns out, the secret to surviving life on the prairie was a lot simpler than churning butter. Just pop the lid and pass the biscuits.
Number 8. Laura and Nellie, best frenemies forever. On screen, Laura Ingalls and Allison Arngrim were the stuff of pioneer nightmares. Two pint-sized rivals, always at war, trading insults, pulling hair, and sometimes ending up in the mud. However, off-screen, Melissa Gilbert and Allison Arngrim were completely different. Instead of fighting, they became inseparable. Their friendship started early in production when the two young actresses realized they had something in common. They were both sweating to death in wool dresses under the Simi Valley sun. Between the heat, the long hours, and the heavy costumes, they quickly found comfort in each other's company, and comedy became their way to survive.
Well, your father's always wanted a son. Guess he finally got one.
Shut up, Nellie.
What's the matter, Laura? Don't you like your new brother?
Arngrim later called their friendship a mutual support system. While they were supposed to be bitter rivals on camera, between takes they'd whisper jokes, talk about teenage crushes, and vent about Michael Landon's unpredictable moods. They were each other's sanity check in a world that demanded constant smiles and perfect takes. To break up the monotony of shooting, the pair became legendary pranksters. They'd hide props, mess with the sound crew's equipment, and try to make each other laugh during the most serious scenes, sometimes succeeding a little too well. When Arngrim's character, Nellie, later married Percival Dalton, she and actor Steve Tracy decided to prank Gilbert by turning their on-screen kisses into ridiculously exaggerated makeout sessions. According to Arngrim, "We did it just to gross Melissa out, and it worked every time." Their friendship lasted long after Little House ended. While many childhood Hollywood bonds fade, Gilbert and Arngrim remained close, reuniting often at conventions and sharing behind-the-scenes stories with fans. Turns out the biggest prank Gilbert and Arngrim ever pulled was convincing America that they hated each other. Now, if you're enjoying these behind-the-scenes trips into Little House on the Prairie, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell us in the comments whether you were Team Laura or Team Nellie. Now, back to the countdown with number 9, Nellie Oleson's Wig of Wow. Nellie Oleson's perfect blonde curls may have looked like pure prairie glamour, but for Allison Arngrim, that hairstyle was more like a torture chamber than a beauty parlor. The spoiled, scheming Nellie became one of TV's most iconic mean girls, but the price of that signature look was real physical pain. In the first few episodes, the show tried using Arngrim's natural hair. The problem was it was straight and fine, refusing to hold the tight ringlets the character demanded, especially in the outdoor heat and humidity of Simi Valley. Hairstylists would spend hours every day with old-fashioned curling irons, damaging Arngrim's hair and scalp, only to watch the curls fall flat by mid-afternoon. The solution was a custom wig. Multiple custom wigs, actually. The show's hairstylists needed Nellie's sausage curls to look identical in every episode. They created several versions, including stunt wigs specifically for scenes where Nellie would get pushed into the mud or covered in mess. No sense ruining the good wig when Laura Ingalls was about to exact her revenge. The problem wasn't the wig itself, it was how they attached it. The heavy, tightly curled wig was secured with metal combs jammed into Arngrim's natural hair, then pinned down with dozens of sharp bobby pins. Every filming day, those metal combs dug into her scalp, and the combination of pressure, heat, and weight made for constant agony. By the end of the day, Arngrim's scalp would sometimes bleed from the repeated friction. In her memoir, she compared the wig to a medieval torture device. As Nellie's character matured and her hairstyle evolved into a more elaborate updo, Arngrim nicknamed her new wig the Jiffy Pop wig, a poofy, oversized creation that somehow managed to be even more ridiculous than the ringlets. But here's the kicker. After Arngrim left the show, her original wig didn't retire. It was passed on to the actress who played Nancy Olson,
Nellie's adopted sister and the show's new resident villain.
We have some new suckers in the store. They have mints inside.
Well, Belinda has to get home for singing practice. I'll see you.
Yeah. See ya.
Nellie Oleson's curls outlived Nellie herself.
Number 10. The twin behind Carrie's famous fall. The youngest Ingalls daughter, sweet little Carrie, wasn't played by just one child actor. It actually took two. Identical twins Lindsay and Sidney Greenbush shared the role throughout Little House on the Prairie, a common Hollywood trick to follow strict California child labor laws.
Hi.
Carrie, you're not supposed to be up here.
How'd she climb the ladder?
What are you climbing around the house for? You know you're not supposed to do that.
Under state regulations, child actors could only spend a few hours a day on set and had to use part of that time for schoolwork. By hiring twins, the production team could swap one out for the other, doubling the available filming time without breaking any rules. When one Greenbush sister reached her daily limit, the other would step in, dressed in the same costume and ready to continue exactly where her twin left off. But what the Greenbush twins are best remembered for wasn't their shared role. It was one spectacularly adorable accident. In the show's opening credits, we see Laura, Mary, and little Carrie running happily down a grassy hill toward their home, until Carrie suddenly tumbles and rolls into the grass before popping back up with a smile. That stumble wasn't scripted. It was just a happy accident that became television history.
Now, here's what happened. Right before filming, the twins had been napping. In the rush to get the shot, someone accidentally put Carrie's shoes on the wrong feet. As the girls ran down the hill, the uncomfortable shoes threw off her balance and she tripped. Instead of cutting the take, Michael Landon loved it. He thought it perfectly captured the natural, unpolished spirit of childhood, so he kept it. That genuine little fall became one of the most memorable moments in the series, appearing at the start of every episode for years. The fall was so iconic that Family Guy even spoofed it years later.
Ow! There's a rock right there. There's a huge rock right there, and it's covered up by grass, and there's no way you can see it, and I got lucky.
One twin, the wrong shoes, and perfect timing. That accidental tumble stayed in the opening credits for 8 seasons. Nobody planned it, but everyone remembered it.
Number 11. Paw went commando. Michael Landon might have been one of America's favorite wholesome father figures as Charles Ingalls, but behind the scenes, he was a lot less buttoned up than he appeared, literally. According to multiple cast members, Landon often went commando while filming. No underwear, just prairie pants.
Another thing about Mr. Hanson, my mind's made up.
Yeah?
I'll be in Walnut Grove tomorrow morning to sign the papers.
All right. I'll be at the mill.
I'll see you then.
Right.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Landon took great pride in his physique and kept himself in excellent shape, working out regularly and showing off his tan, muscular build whenever he could. Between his shirtless farm scenes, open vests, and perfectly fitted trousers, he wanted to look like a rugged, handsome frontier hero, not just a friendly family man. Of course, going commando caused some, let's call them, complications. Grassel admitted in her memoir that Landon's no-underwear policy was both distracting and, at times, uncomfortable for his co-stars. The crew found it funny, but for the actors filming emotional family scenes, it sometimes made maintaining eye contact a bit tricky.
You're working much too hard.
The worst part of it's over. It's just a little while now. Come on, bear with me. Huh?
The decision was very on brand for Landon's off-camera persona. He was confident, image-conscious, and a little rebellious. It was a big contrast to the modest, soft-spoken Pa audiences saw on screen. So, while Charles Ingalls preached humility and hard work on the prairie, Michael Landon was quietly redefining free range.
Number 12. When Ma asked for a raise. On screen, Charles and Caroline Ingalls were the gold standard of pioneer partnership. They were devoted, patient, and stood together through every hardship the prairie threw at them. Off-screen, however, Michael Landon and Karen Grassel's relationship was much more turbulent, marked by tension, silence, and one bitter feud that almost broke their working dynamic.
He started to tell these filthy jokes about the female anatomy while we sat there.
The trouble began when Little House on the Prairie became a massive hit. Ratings soared, NBC was making serious money, and Landon was being paid as the star, as well as the show's writer, director, and executive producer. Meanwhile, Karen Grassel, the emotional anchor of the series, was being paid far less than her male co-star. When she finally asked Landon for a raise, the conversation did not go the way she had hoped. According to Grassel's memoir, Bright Lights, Prairie Dust, Landon dismissed her request outright, reportedly telling her she should be grateful to have the job.
Well, it's like I told you, it's a big company. They pay when the order's complete, not before. It's either that or they give the contract to somebody else.
He even made personal comments about her appearance and brought up her past struggles with alcoholism, a move that deeply hurt and embarrassed her. The fallout was immediate. Their once warm rapport turned icy. From that point on, the affection between Pa and Ma seen on screen became pure acting. Grassel described their professional relationship as tense and emotionally draining, especially during scenes that required intimacy or tenderness.
Charles.
Mm-hmm.
Are you awake?
No, I'm sound asleep.
For several years, they barely spoke beyond what was necessary for filming. Years later, when Grassel learned that Michael Landon was dying of pancreatic cancer, she made a decision. She called him. They talked, and I mean really talked, for the first time in years. She visited him at his Malibu home, and they openly addressed the years of silence and hurt. They made peace before he passed away in 1991. Not every workplace feud gets that kind of ending, but theirs did. Number 13. The Bonanza episodes that rode into Walnut Grove. If some Little House on the Prairie storylines ever gave you déjà vu, you weren't imagining things. Michael Landon was a master recycler, and he didn't just reuse props or sets, he literally repurposed full episodes of Bonanza and gave them a fresh coat of prairie dust. Because Landon had written and directed many Bonanza scripts himself, and both shows were NBC productions, he owned the creative rights to his earlier work.
Oh, he had some other name when he was born, but then when he weighed in at 50 pounds when he was just a couple of months old, well, people just forgot the other name, started calling him Hoss.
So, when Little House needed new material, Landon dipped back into the Bonanza archives. He swapped the saloon for a schoolhouse, renamed a few characters, and boom, new frontier drama ready to go. Viewers back then had no streaming or reruns to refresh their memory, so it was the perfect trick. Several Little House episodes borrowed heavily from Bonanza storylines, keeping remarkably similar themes and plots. The Season 2 episode, A Matter of Faith, was lifted directly from Bonanza's A Matter of Circumstance. Both involve a main character facing a grisly self-amputation after a severe injury, with Joe Cartwright in the original and Caroline Ingalls in the remake. The emotional beats about a boy wounded in a robbery were mirrored almost exactly.
But I wanted to give it to you. It's not the same if you buy it. I wanted to surprise you.
Season 5's Someone Please Love Me reworked Bonanza's A Dream to Dream, telling the story of a lonely soul finding unexpected love.
I mean, you're all gonna stay here and all be together.
Oh, Hoss, you did it. We knew you could. You gave my daddy a dream.
Yeah, that's right. I gave him a dream.
And the Season 9 episode, Little Lou, echoed the same underdog theme as Bonanza's It's a Small World. For Landon, this wasn't laziness, it was efficiency. He knew which stories worked and wasn't afraid to give them a second life. After all, why write something new when you could dust off an old Bonanza script and give it a Little House title? Number 14. The Bonanza tune that became the Prairie theme. That warm, sweeping Little House on the Prairie theme, the one that plays as the Ingalls girls run down the hill, wasn't written for Little House at all. It was actually a leftover from Bonanza.
Composer David Rose, who scored music for Bonanza, Little House on the Prairie, and later Highway to Heaven, originally wrote the melody for a 1971 Bonanza episode called Top Hand. Back then, the tune had a faster tempo and a bold western flair, horns blaring, percussion pounding, perfect for a cattle drive or a chase scene. When Michael Landon launched Little House on the Prairie 3 years later, he asked David Rose to adapt the piece for his new frontier family drama. Rose slowed it down, softened the arrangement, and replaced the brass with strings and a gentle French horn solo. The result was that unmistakable melody that opened every episode for years. It was a perfect bit of music recycling, practical, familiar, and deeply effective. Same composer, same melody, just a different show. David Rose knew how to make a good tune go the distance. Number 15. The Hidden Cost of Being Pa. Michael Landon made Charles Ingalls look like the kind of dad every kid wished they had. Steady, moral, and always ready with a life lesson. But off-screen, Pa was running a frontier empire fueled by caffeine, cigarettes, and sheer willpower. Landon wasn't just the star of Little House on the Prairie. He was the writer, director, producer, and unofficial god of Walnut Grove. Every script, every shot, and every edit went through him.
I have a little secret of my own, too.
Oh, what's your secret?
As you know, the Grange's going to meet in 2 weeks to decide state regulation. And since Luther Douglas is sick, I am going to represent the district at the convention.
The cast adored him and feared him in equal measure. And while he protected Little House's family-friendly image like it was sacred, the atmosphere on set was anything but calm. Crew members joked it was Mad Man on the Prairie, coffee mugs full of wild turkey, clouds of unfiltered smoke, and one exhausted perfectionist holding it all together. Landon chain-smoked, drank before lunch, and still powered through 14-hour days, rewriting scenes and giving line readings.
You want to worry about the drilling contest. Now we're going to win it.
Us?
Us.
You think we can?
For $50 in prize money split between us, we got to win it.
He was brilliant, controlling, and completely unstoppable. A man who carried the show on his back until it nearly broke him. Even the decision to blow up Walnut Grove in the final movie was pure Landon, dramatic, defiant, and entirely on his terms. Pa Ingalls was wholesome. Michael Landon was complicated. The price of keeping Little House on the Prairie perfect was a man burning twice as bright and twice as fast. And there you have it, 15 weird and wild facts about Little House on the Prairie. Which one surprised you the most? And which ones did we miss? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more retro TV deep dives.